my channel. I'm so glad you clicked on this link. This thumbnail, can you tell me why you clicked on this link? Do you like Woody Woodpecker? Do you like classic cartoons? Do you like bullet journals? Do you like just watching people draw, which I do too? Although I have a tendency of having them draw, but I'm doing my own art while I'm listening to them and look up a little bit. See my desk here, I like this, works out just good, and I've got my good posture as a fitness professional, yoga instructor. I keep my posture really good. So I wanted to do an intro for my channel for this video. My name is Kayleen. I started this channel to promote my graphic memoir, Mom Remembers Me, of how I used my health and fitness knowledge to stop my mother with mild dementia from forgetting me. And yes, I'm kind of in my pajamas now. And this is actually one of my mother's bed jackets. It still has her name right here when the nursing home that I actually had to fight in probate court to get her out, put her name on her clothes. And that was quite an ordeal. And my book lays out a lot of ordeals that I had, just caregiving that should not have happened, but it did happen, and some problems with our healthcare industry. So in the process of taking care of my mother, I got back into art, which I know sounds really corny, but I kind of went full circle, got back into art, and I started journaling a lot. I mean, I've always been a good journaler, but I started drawing a little bit more in my journals. And you know that looking at a picture, according to the brain books, is actually more challenging for your brain than even playing chess. So I would challenge my mother with art and going out to paint nights and everything too. So I wanted to get back into doing the journaling. So I started doing these monthly videos, and I don't have very many subscribers. If you know anything about YouTube, they don't monetize us at all unless I have at least 1,000 subscribers. And right now I think I have 30. So if you don't want to subscribe, please like and comment or ask me some kind of question. I would really appreciate it. These videos are time consuming. I do like the drawing, but putting it all together with Photoshop is what I'm using is always a challenge. If anybody has any suggestions about that, I'm just using Photoshop because I use Photoshop for my book. My book is different. It's not all drawing. It's some drawing with Adobe Fresco, which I started my own paint night, digital art in Northern California. I live in the South Bay. So I just got myself on YayMaker for paint night and started doing digital art. I haven't started my first class yet. We just started advertising because I finally found a venue. But my videos are also kind of basic. I'm not going to do all the other images coming in and back and forth. I personally don't like that. I don't think it really helps our concentration when you've got an image this and an image that, and they keep switching all over the place. So my videos are basic, so if you don't like all those images coming and going, then my videos are good for you. If you do, I would challenge you to think about if that's really helping your brain. I know that that's the most popular and all the videos do that, but I don't think it's really good for your brain. So here, check out first I'm going to draw, and you show me drawing. You'll see me drawing Woody Woodpecker for all of my bullet journal spreads. And then I do a final flip through showing you how I filled it all in. So you're not going to watch me color it all in because that would take a long, long time. Plus, it's too hard to film. So thanks for staying. If you could jump past all my drawing and look at my final flip through. I am thinking about creating what I call positive affirmation spreads. We have so many things that we have to visualize in life, such as like hurdles. I think that if you create your own kind of a spread with just showing hurdles that we do, maybe mountains that you're achieving and getting over, which is all kind of your positive affirmations, your destiny. I'm going to create that. Let me know if you like that, okay? Thanks for staying. Okay, here I am drawing Woody Woodpecker. And I have been doing classic cartoons for at least the last year and a half. Last month I did Yogi Bear. If you didn't, go check out that video. It's on my videos list. And then the month before, I didn't put it on videos. I don't know, in December, I did Dr. Seuss, and also gave you guys a little bit of a history on Dr. Seuss. And I realized that Dr. Seuss actually was his wife's maiden name. But and then the month before I didn't film, and I did Fat Albert. And over the whole past year, I've done classic cartoons in my own journal, but I haven't filled them all. Maybe I might do a classic if I get more subscribers. Maybe I'll actually film the whole, but it's all filled in and kind of messy now. But I really enjoy doing the classic cartoons. I don't see any other Boojoers doing classic cartoons, so I don't think anybody else has done Woody Woodpecker. If you here, I'm gonna keep talking to you. I think that you don't. It's kind of boring to watch me draw without me talking. But talking about woodpeckers, woodpeckers, what peck wood. And taking care of my mother, as I mentioned to you in the beginning, I read pretty much every brain book out there, and all the brain literature, and every single doctor that talks about using your head says you should not use your head for anything but thinking, right? So when I taught an indoor soccer class at a college, I would not, after reading those books, and actually while I was taking care of my mother, I would not let my soccer players headbutt the ball, because using your head, but this is just a college physical education class. There's no reason for them to take a risk, and you never know what the amount of pressure and the force with a ball. And I actually, during the practice and the games, I did get hit in the back of the head once, and I went home crying. It hurt. So all these rough and tough freshman college students, none of them got hit in the head on mistake, but a couple of them just didn't want. I mean, I got a lot of flack. They still wanted to headbutt the ball because they don't know any better. But as a teacher, I didn't let them do that. So if you didn't know that, don't use your head for like a woodpecker. They always say woodpeckers, which is kind of a off kilter here for my whole video. But woodpeckers as well, same as antelopes. When the antelopes bang each other, bang their head, they have water around their brain. And woodpeckers do, and we don't. Humans don't have the water around the brain. So if you haven't seen the Will Smith movie, the true story movie called Concussion, then I highly recommend that too. But don't use your head for anything but thinking, right? Reading, thinking. Don't butt your head for anything. It's not worth it. You never know what small little thing could go. So if you notice here, I switched to using these are canvas, which I got from Michael's, and Michael's always have them on sale. It's like buy one, get the second one 50% off, even free sometimes, and Michael's, so it really makes you wonder how much they really cost. But the paper is good doesn't bleed through for anything like this. It also doesn't bleed through for watercolor. Of course, it bleeds through for Sharpies and for hoo-hoos. So I kind of take turns. In this video, I only use watercolor because I didn't, since I drew everything actually on the papers. So sometimes I will use the hoo-hoos, and then on the back side I have to put another paper because it's bled through. I also sometimes think it would be really creative to use the bleed through on the page behind it to create another image. And that would be a good brain challenge. I've done it just like in that Yogi Bear video, my last video, the back side when I used the hoo-hoos, I filled in all of the forest and everything. The back side turned out, I just kind of colored it all in too, and it made it like an abstract around. It became like a border, and that came out really good too. So that's a good challenge too. So I'm drawing Woody in his car. And so I'll show you on my final flip through when I fill this all in and what every single spread is. But I had a really good time, and because Woody Woodpecker. And then what I also do on my own, which I haven't been very good for this goal, is my goal was to spend 15 minutes every day just drawing from my imagination without using a reference. And that's also part of the neurological test for the elderly. They make the elderly draw a cube. And if you've heard of Betty Edwards was the famous woman who wrote Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. She states in that book that nobody can draw a cube unless they've been taught. But the neurological medical industry uses drawing a cube as one of the neurological tests. And I actually did my research trying to find the actual studies for those neurological tests. I can't find them. There are plenty of articles by psychologists listing the pros and cons of every single one of the neurological tests, especially a 3-word recall, but there's no actual studies showing how that pertains to anybody's life. So I really wonder. So after I learned about those 3-word recall tests, I actually went back to my college students and gave them 3 random words like they did with my mother, and about 50% of them got all 3, and 50%, the other half didn't, only got 2, which I always think it's like us. When you go grocery shopping and if you have 3 items in your head, can you remember all 3 items without looking at your notes? But that's what they require the elderly to do for those neurological tests, and they don't have any scientific data, actual studies on how it pertains to executive functioning. So it's always good. So I went and did that. So Betty Edwards says you can't draw a cube without being trained, but they make people do that. So my mother did okay with a cube. It looked okay. It looked like a cube. It looked fine. My mother's handwriting was always perfect. So I wanted to point that out. If you go see if you're a caregiver and you're going to your doctor, I think if I could redo a lot of stuff, I would sit down and ask the doctor, give me the scientific reasons why you're doing this and tell me what happened to the control group. So especially when it comes to meds, what happened to the control group for any kind of meds? What percentage of people in the control group? Because a lot of times what I've read is the pharmaceutical industry, though, after they have a control group and a group taken, they'll claim that the medication is really helping the group taking the medication, and they think, oh, it's awful, we have to give it to the control group, and they give it to the control group, so then they end up having no control group. So if you don't have a control group, you don't really know whether that medication is actually working. So if I had to do it over again, I would really question I really liked my mother's doctor because I made sure I had one that I liked. I had the first one after I fought the nursing home and brought her to California, was completely apathetic. You know what he did? You want to hear an interesting story? In his office, he asked my mother, the date, and my mother went to look behind his head at the calendar on the wall, which we always do. You can't know the date without looking at your phone, unless you have a day when you're putting in the address on if you're not putting in the date on something all day long, you don't know the date. We always look at our watch, we always look at our clock. So my mother went to look at the calendar behind his head, and he blocked my mother and said, no, you can't do that. So after that, I never brought my mother back to him. So if you don't like your doctor, if you're a caregiver and you don't like the doctor, number one, they're supposed to give us conformed consent, give you a choice, and teach you everything. But if you don't like them, find another doctor. So that's what I did. I immediately found another doctor. He was completely apathetic. He didn't believe my mother could ever get better. And most of the healthcare industry did not believe that she could get better, which really makes you question, like, healthcare industry is supposed to help you get better, but if they don't believe you can get better, why are we going to our doctors? But that's just something, and this is all something I learned while writing the book. So I encourage everybody, which I wrote in my book, to write a book. Even if you don't publish it, write down your thoughts, keep detailed journals, write down the name of every person that you ever spoke to, and then also ask for their qualifications. Because I realized in the nursing home with my mother, there was this 19-year-old memory therapist came and asked my mother those 3 words. I don't believe she even had any qualifications as any kind of psychologist at all, which then I would wonder whether they were paying insurance and everything for a psychologist to do all that. And so question everything. Well, check this out. What do you think? I've colored it all in. I mostly use these Crayola Super Tips, and I have these other dingbats that I like. The dingbats are good. What I think would be really cool is some of these dual tips. They should have just like our Tombow that everybody loves so much, and I don't know whether I really like the watercolor. It's always kind of a pain, but I like how they show the difference between the brush tip and the smaller one, and this one doesn't do that, so you always have to look. But this is mostly done with the Crayola Super Tips. So what I did is I just took the lightest color, because you're always supposed to start off with the lightest color, and I just zigzagged. So I copied a picture off the internet. So it's supposed to be a tree behind Woody, and I haven't watched a Woody Woodpecker cartoon, so I don't even know. Does anybody know what does Woody Woodpecker say a common expression? I don't even know. I guess that's his girlfriend, and I don't know who these other people are. I just like drawing the cartoons lately. And I watch a lot more animated movies now. I just watched the movie Turbo with Ryan Reynolds plays the snail. Boy, is that good. And the Bad Guys that's a good animated movie with Sam Rockwell plays the fox. I really like the animated movies lately because they're amazing, and the colors. I love the colors. There's no beige in my condo. So I used the Crayola Super Tips and just zigzagged up and kept making it thicker. And then I would take the glider color, zigzag it up, and then do a little darker, a little darker, a little darker. And then I'd try, and then didn't end up I needed to create some kind of shading so the Woody Woodpecker stands out. And then of course coming out Woody. So I like this. It came out really, really well. And then I don't have a lot of appointments per day, so I just when I have appointments, put it in there. So I wanted to share that with you. This came out good. So you saw me drawing all these little pieces. So then what I do is, these are my weeks. So what I do every day is I write something I'm grateful for, the positive affirmation. I usually write down my walking. I do my push-ups every other day. You need to do push-ups and strength training every other day. And I have mentioned that in some previous videos, just doing push-ups every other day. And just do as many as you can so it goes to your failure. So I write down my weekly goals. So I try to make my borders match the colors of Woody painting and going. So the colors came out pretty. And I deliberately didn't use a ruler. I didn't want to use a ruler. I think using a ruler is cheating. I mean, kind of cheating. I want to challenge my brain for drawing a straight line and circles and everything. So I don't use templates very much. I also think it's a pain in the ass to find the template and to get it out and place it. I sometimes just think drawing it's so much easier. So this is my first 2 weeks of February. And then I decided to do another bigger one for my the third and fourth week of February. And then I use crayons, because the water-based colors, no matter how long you let it dry, it still runs. I'm not quite sure. I used a crayon here because it felt weird just having without some kind of a little header, a little circle, something like that. And I might probably use a darker color eventually, but I can see it. But here's Woody and his girlfriend. It came out pretty good too. See, this is all Tombows. And I have seen some other videos that if you don't like the streaking, then you have to use colored pencils. But then I decided to use the streaking to my advantage for the ground here, but I didn't get into it for the side of the building, the house here. So that came out good. I keep a energy tracker. I have a whole list, how many hours I sleep. I didn't write that out here. How many hours I sleep, how many hours I fast, if I wake up feeling good. And I also have a separate food reaction tracker for any kind of food. Remember, if a restaurant has any kind of food that makes me sleepy, when your nose runs, when you're sleepy after food, that's an allergic reaction. So I have an energy tracker. And then this is my cardio tracker. This came out really pretty too, these colors. And I think I used the blue color here, which I always have a hard time. This is the 452 Tombow. Came out pretty good. I think I'm at the point where I might just go buy all blues and stuff. So I added in the Woody Woodpecker. It came out good. I'm not quite sure. But sometimes, when I'm copying an image from the internet, that different artists make the Woody look a little different, because that Woody doesn't look as good as the first Woody. So this came out pretty good. I have what I call it. I have a memories page. So every single month, I'm not going to back it up and show you because there's got some stuff that happened. But you have to. What I do is I used to have squares for every single day, but I realized I like the look of the more of a collage. So some days would be a small little image, and I try to always draw an image of a memory of that day to challenge my memory. And I really believe writing everything down in a journal, you're making a conscious effort to remember your life. Just like the memory books say, when you put something down somewhere, you have to go boom, you got to pretend that you're seeing that object scream or blow up, and then you will remember where you put something, right? So that's what I do all the time. By writing it down, making a conscious effort, you're remembering your day. So, and then this is, this, I didn't show you this drawing. So this is, I created my own washi tape. I took all little tiny pictures from the internet. I'm not selling it, so I'm hoping I won't get in trouble. But I just created my own washi tape projects. My book, Mom Remembers Me. Every month I have a key learnings page, and I usually fill this up. So I also put quotes in my key learnings that I like, that I've learned, right? I don't want to use a whole page for one quote. And then, as I mentioned, the memory key. So if I can't remember what the picture is, I have a little memory key here to really challenge what happened that day and why I have that image. So, and at the end of every single monthly wrap up, I have a I'm proud of myself for. So this came out pretty good. Oh, and this is my instructions to the universe, my destiny. So I always have a nice instructions to the universe. Tell it every single day what I want the universe to do. I'm visualizing, like Wayne Dyer says. So thanks a lot for listening. I'd really appreciate if you like and subscribe. Like I said, I need more subscribers. But thanks a lot. Take care.